Welcome to the FFL Solidity team call. My name is Marisa Maggio. Today is May 9th of 2024, and I'm really excited to have my business partner, Trey Honeycutt, Integrity Partner, on with us today. Now, before we jump on over with Trey, and I'm really thankful, Trey, for you hopping on with us today. But I used to always say I was the person that walked around and I was like, like consistency wins, consistency wins. And then Trey was the person one day who I was like, that's like the smartest thing I've ever heard. He said, everybody, people walk around, they're like, I'm not consistent. I'm not consistent. But you're always consistently doing something, whether it's serving you or essentially it's not serving you. And that really opened my eyes up, right? Like if you consistently eat, brownies and don't go to the gym, over time, your heart or body may not reward you, right? If you consistently wake up and have your morning routine and it's full of healthy habits, your body will probably reward you. So it really opened my eyes up to like, we are all consistent, but what am I consistent at? What are you consistent at? So without further ado, Trey Honeycutt, thank you so much for being on with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I love this
Absolutely.
group. You guys are my
Thanks for
favorite.
being
I would
on.
have probably quit FFL if it weren't for you guys. And I'm not even saying that lightly. Like, if I started over and I had to pick five people, all five of them would come from your group. 100%. I'm not
Hey,
going to see, now there's more than five, so I'm not going to tell you who the five are, but because then everybody will be jealous. But honestly, though, that is the truth. And I tell Sean Mike that almost every time I talk to him, actually. So you
hey,
guys that work with these wonderful people, like you guys are lucky to work with Marisa and Christina and Rami and Afro and Heather for sure.
absolutely. And hey, Trey, I appreciate that more than you know. And you're just a truly like a pleasure being in business with, because you just always are honest, you're open. And that's really what I'm excited to hear from you about today on the call. Now, obviously, you built your business unit up from, literally like the ground bottom all the way up to being able to sell it to Integrity, which is amazing and a huge accomplishment. And, obviously there's a lot of stuff that happened in between that time, right? As I can only imagine. But talk to us a little bit about why build a business, like why build a business at all? And why build a business here at Family First Life? Kind of what did that look like for you, coming in the door? And, why did you decide to go that way?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. And it's not a question you answer once. As you're doing it, you're always going to ask yourself that. Uh, because the thing you'll realize when you look back is like the names change, the places change, the people change, the ways you reach the people change, but the story is always the same. And in this business, it's um, somebody that had a strong why. They made a decision to do it. They got really uncomfortable consistently for a long period of time. They had a series of ups and downs, always getting better with the ups, so the downs didn't last as long. Other people believed in them more than they believed in themselves. And then at some point, people started to follow. And then years later, it turns into something bigger than they ever thought. What's interesting about this business is in the beginning, you'll do more work than you actually get paid for. That's that's probably the thing that runs more people off than anything else is people start trying to measure this by a quantifying time versus action deal. Like I spent this much time, I got paid this much, it's this much an hour, I'm underpaid. You know, if you do it that way, it's going to make you want to smash your face into a window a lot because what will happen is some weeks you'll get paid a lot more than what you actually should have. And then the next week things will change. And then you'll go, what happened? Is it me? Do the leads not work? Is is what I'm doing wrong? Did I forget how to sell? Like you'll go through all these crazy up and down emotional situations. Um, so don't try to quantify it because at some point you'll actually get paid a lot more than what you actually should because you have this compounding effect, this wind at your back effect that will eventually catch up to you. Andrew used to always call that, Andrew Taylor called that catching your break. And I think that before I get into why build the business, I think what happens a lot is the picture from the top down and the picture from the bottom up look completely different, even though it's the same picture. It's just really a matter of perspective. And a big mistake in this business is forgetting what it's like to be brand new. Like, if you can always remember what it's like to be a brand new person with a stack of leads with no idea what to do and fear that you're going to screw it up, if you can remember what that feels like all the time and be able to communicate through the process of knowing what to do and actually doing it, then you'll have a lot of success in the business. And for me, that was a big part of the why, because I didn't get really excited about what I could get from it. And that doesn't mean like I'm this benevolent monk that only thinks about other people. That's not true. It's just, I'm kind of, and this isn't a positive term, but the truth is, I'm kind of apathetic. Like I was happy poor, and that's the truth. And it took me a long time to understand this now, because people would mess me up. They would mess with me. They'd say, "Hey, your goal should be this," and I'm like, I don't really care about that. Like your goal should be have this kind of car and to retire your wife. And dude, it never motivated me. But what did motivate me is if Marisa came to me and said, "Hey, I want to accomplish this because of this," then I would move heck. I'd do everything I could, come hell or high water, to help Marisa get there because I didn't want to let her down. It's the people pleasing aspect of my personality, which oftentimes does not serve you well in this business because people walk over you and they tell you they want to think about it. But that same people pleasing side of my personality made me not want to let people down. So what you'll find is a lot of times in this business, your biggest strength is your biggest weakness. You just got to learn how to harness it. It's just how you're looking at the picture that matters. And what Andrew Taylor taught me early on was, and he reminded me of this. He was on a call on Monday, and he talked about his activity goals. And in the beginning, all I had was that. Like when people would try to talk about these financial goals to me, like I was bankrupt. I'd lost more money than I ever thought I could make again. My wife stayed with me. That was cool. But I felt like a complete total failure in every aspect of my life. Like they repossessed the house, and that's where we took our kids home to, and I had this major guilt, like I let everybody down, um, and I didn't have a whole lot of confidence in my skill sets or even any real hope for the future. Like I was in a real low place. So when somebody came to me and they were like, "Hey, like you could go out and make $50,000 a month selling insurance," like that didn't really I had no idea what that even meant, right? Like if I based everything on performance, I would have quit. But what I based everything on was process. Like you should have your process goals, which is activity driven, which you have 100% control over, and then you have performance goals. And with telesales, this is more important than any time ever in the business. Process goals and performance goals, because there's so much about performance goals that you absolutely cannot control no matter how hard you try. And there's less within your control when it comes to telesales than any other way to do this, which means it has the potential to be by far the most discouraging thing you can encounter. But process goals, the things you actually can control when you're asking yourself the question, what can I do? Like, what can I do? This thing happened. What can I do? And then be proactive, get into that proactive mindset. So the things you can control when it comes to telesales is how many leads you buy, how much time you invest on the phone, whether or not you circle the fire with other people that are motivated and excited, whether or not you stay plugged in, which is a huge part of it, because it's really, really hard to dial the phone by yourself. I don't care how disciplined you think you are, it's really hard to do it. When somebody says they're doing it, they're probably not doing it. So, like, oh, Bob, yeah, Bob's just dialing by himself. No, he's not. Bob's probably not dialing by himself. If he submitted some apps, those were probably fake. And that's harsh. Well, that's a lot. You say, I don't know, Bob's the most disciplined person ever. I don't know. It's really freaking hard to dial by yourself. So what can you control? Whether or not you get on Zoom and do it with other people, whether or not you put yourselves in uncomfortable positions to receive coaching, like Jordan. Jordan is a great example of this. Like I knew at the conference that Jordan would do well because he was the sharpest dressed person. He always was smiling. He was super accommodating, asked a ton of questions, had a great attitude, and listened more than he taught. And it was easy to be around him. Like he didn't have this weird, like sometimes you ask people questions like, what did you used to do? And, you know, what's your story? And they'll try to enamor you with how great they are. But dude, he didn't do none of that. He was like, hey, I live up here. I used to live down there. He's telling me the whole thing. And it wasn't to be impressed upon me. It was just like, this is where I'm at. And if I could get everybody to understand one thing that's new, because I'm always trying to talk to people that are new, because I'm always trying to remember what it's like to be new, is start where you are, do what you can, and then never give up. Like, like if you can do that, you can be incredibly successful, not just at this, but at anything. So, process goals. How many leads can you buy? How much time can you commit? How many presentations can you do a day? Can you commit to a number of presentations where you get people all the way through to the price on the telephone? Whether or not they say yes or no really has not a whole lot to do with you. It actually has less to do with you. You think you're the greatest salesman of all time. It actually has less to do with you than it does with the fact that if you just run the numbers, 20% of those will probably say yes, and you'll make money every day. And you can control that. Um, so so that's pretty much that's pretty much my whole story. When I talked about why build the business, so why here's why you should build the business. Because if you can get 10 people in that mindset of being proactive with you, then what happens is your likelihood of being profitable is way higher. And not everybody has a bad day on the same day. So if Marisa and Rami and Christina and Heather have a great day and I have a bad day, it's still a good day. That's why you should do it. And if it's just based 100% on you, that's scary. You know, because what if you get hurt? What if you get sick? What if you can't work? What if there's a death in the family? What if um, Zach Turdowski got his car stolen from the valet parking? How does that happen? I mean, and if he was just him selling, that means he probably wouldn't have sold that day, right? Um, Gosh, that's going on YouTube. I probably shouldn't have said all that. But things happen. Like when those things happen and it's just you, that's a bad place to be. But then people make these excuses. They say, well, um, I don't want to be responsible for other people. I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to be responsible for a roll-up debt or be on the hook or like that's asking what if it doesn't work? What you should be asking is what if it does work? And I can tell you this, the principles of building work better with telesales than any other medium because you can literally go get 5 or 10 people and if you're good at telesales, Jordan and Liz and all you guys have all made money every week selling over the phone. If you got 5 or 10 people and showed them exactly what you're doing in your backyard, they can sell all over the country and y'all can do business. You can make money together. You can make money with them, not off of them. Um, that's like the ultimate recipe because when you extrapolate that out, like if I go out and I recruit Christina, Rami, Marisa, Heather, and Jordan, and I can issue 5K a week on telesales, and I teach them to do 5K a week on telesales or help 5 families a week. Now that's 25 a week, 30 a week, 120 a month, and that's just with 6 of us. Now, what will happen is they'll do what I did if you just give it enough time because they can find 5 people to do the same thing because they know how to do it. That's ultimately what the business looks like. We do 3 things. Okay, this is what we do. We we buy leads and talk to people about insurance, or we buy leads and set appointments to talk to people about insurance, We talk to people about insurance, and then we teach other people to buy leads, set appointments, and talk to people about insurance. That's it. That's the business model. Now, what messes a lot of people up is in the process of that all occurring, there's going to be these ups and downs or these roadblocks or these obstacles that come in or this negative thinking or you relating to this other person that says this happened, and you'll start to believe that thing as if it was true. Like, and sometimes well-meaning people can tell you the most stupidest information that has absolutely no bearing in like reality. Like I had a doctor tell me one time, if you have sleep apnea, it's impossible to lose weight. And I'm thinking, okay, so if Al Qaeda captured you, worked you all day in a camp doing manual forced labor, restricted your food intake, and then didn't let you sleep, you mean in 6 months you'd still be 300 pounds? Isn't that stupid? But because a doctor says it, we listen to it. So you always got to bring things back to like rational ways of thinking. You know, somebody says the leads don't work. That's not true. People don't work. That would be like saying gyms don't work. I've had a membership for 5 years. I'm still fat. That's ridiculous. But it's the right question is, do you go to the gym and work out there? See? So I hope this is making sense. If you can always interrogate reality with yourself and actually be honest about things with yourself, and then ask yourself, am I taking responsibility for it or am I blaming somebody else? The moment you blame somebody else for your lack of success is the moment you give 100% of your power away to do something about it. That's why Heather was going to be successful, because she never did that. Even even if it was even if what she said was illogical, even if she was lost, she still got there fast. You know, because she took full responsibility for where she was. So it was easy for her to course correct and not blame anybody else. When you start blaming somebody else, that's when you lose all your power and you can't change anything. And that's where you kind of reside to the fate of, this is what happened to me. And Dave Anderson always said it best, it's not it didn't happen to you, it happened for you. And really, if you ask any successful person, when they look back, they look at these things, God's greatest gifts come disguised as problems. They come in ugly wrapping paper. The biggest problems you have are usually the keys to the biggest breakthroughs that'll take you where you want to go. But it's all about how you deal with it, how you talk about it, how you don't let it stop you, what you learn from it, that type of thing. I don't know if that had anything to do with what you asked me.
It did. It had a lot to do with what I asked you. I honestly, you hit on so many different things there. It's all ties together though. Like what I repetitively hear you saying, Trey, is if you're willing to go through uncomfortable predicaments, they're not always going to be comfortable. Like some days you're going to be cakewalking, other days you're going to feel like you can't find the cake if your life depended on it. But if you keep going, it's going to play itself out. And if you can try to keep your emotions, wherever, whatever this means, baseline to you. And at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing that I just took away from what you just said was interrogate reality with yourself, right? Like some of us, Trey, maybe I might not be able to call you and interrogate reality of, if you ask me particular questions, maybe I might not be able to say, you know what, Trey, you're right. Maybe I might. I like to think I will. But maybe when I'm sitting by myself and I'm thinking about, hey, how could this week have went better? What could I have done? That's me already asking from a place of taking accountability. So it's not allowing my brain to go to a place to say, well, it's Trey's fault, right? It's the lead's fault. It's because I live in Massachusetts. It's because I called on a Saturday. It's because of whatever I'm taking personal responsibility for. And I think that the day that I actually really realized that, at least to the point, Trey, that I do today, it was the day that my whole business changed. But it was also the day that I felt free as a person. I felt like I didn't need to make excuses. I just needed to make corrections. I needed to make small tweaks and adjustments. And I had never felt more in control of what I was doing. So in a way, it was like a freedom, right? And I think if we use it that way and we think about it that way, and once you find yourself there, it's like you typically find yourself taking accountability for a lot more things. And I'd rather be over accountable all day than under accountable, so I think that that speaks to a lot. And then also just talking about, you can do this business but you can do it by yourself, and like you totally can. Like, has it been done? Sure. But at the same time, associating yourself around people that are doing it, whether that's on Zoom or just like you said, it's like, Trey, I know having Rami and Christina in my backyard, if you will, it's like that's extremely beneficial, not just for me, not just for Rami, not just for Christina, but for all three of us being in that office together, because we're associating with each other on a daily basis, right? We're talking about the same things. We're getting excited about the same things. So it's like, guys, if you have those couple people that you're doing telesales live on Zoom anyways, invite them on. Like, hey, jump on. This is what I do every day. Jump on with me in a breakout room. This is what I do every day. See if you see if you'd be interested in doing it. Like, it's not that deep. And just like Trey said, once you do it once, it's like, that's the expectation. Almost like, hey, when you come in, you just bring in some other folks that need to be put in a better situation, or we might be able to help get into a better situation. And if we can, great. And if we can't, cool. We still showed them the opportunity. So I think that that says a lot. And then also, I loved how when you began, you spoke about sometimes in the beginning, like, if you're coming from a W-2 position, you might sit there and be like, I worked 40 hours this week and I made $40. All right, let's just for the sake of the simplicity in my awful math, right? So I made $1 an hour, right? Okay, sure, right? But at the end of the day, guys, this is long term. And I say this with all love, and Trey, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're here for like quick, hot money, you're in the wrong place. Like, you are in the wrong place. This is a long-term thing that you want to be doing. It's not, hey, I'm just going to make some extra money. Like, so I'm going to DoorDash for a month. This is not DoorDash. It's a lot more concentration focused than that, but it's only a couple of things. It's 3 things, right? Like Trace said, we have to focus on 3 things. We buy leads to talk to people. We talk to people about insurance, and then we help other people learn how to do those 2 other things. And when we can simplify the business like that, I'm just like, you know what, Trey, I have no further questions, and not literally, but literally, it's like that belief is what's going to move, the needle for you. So it's like, what do you need to ask yourself? What reality do you need to interrogate for yourself, right? This week, this month, if you're me today, what reality do you need to interrogate? And it's not always going to be a walk in the park. And guess what, though? Those moments that aren't a walk in the park typically have a lot bigger of an impact on you long term. And you're like, I'm so happy that that day wasn't a walk in the park, because it felt like the biggest problem, but it was the problem that I needed to have to be able to see ABC. And when that happens, the why exceeds the how, essentially. So I appreciate that, Trey. You honed in a lot on schedule, and also a lot on that essence of trying to remember what being a new agent feels like. And you and I briefly spoke about that yesterday. Just like, sometimes it feels like this and like this, but at the end of the day, showing up as that person on the Zoom that's just willing to learn. I don't care if you've been here, like Trey, when he gets on the Zoom, Trey, correct me if I'm wrong, like, you're willing to learn from other people, right? That are doing like that's
I unmuted yesterday and had Heather talk to the client.
like
He was awesome.
I love it. Like,
I thought
talk
Heather was
about
right
team.
here.
Right. So it's like, Trey's not plugging in there to be like, hey guys, I'm way better than you. Like, he's plugging in there also to get feedback and help, because we can never know too much in this business. We're never too far ahead in this business to be able to learn something. So being able to bring yourself back. And then Trey, one thing I know you're good at, and just in general, just to kind of close out, because you really hit on pretty much everything that I feel like I could ask of you. But in terms of like from a recruiting stance, you talk about, that friends first aspect. And I like this because it makes logical sense to me, right? Talk to us a little bit about what you mean, or what I mean rather, when I'm saying, hey, I went through my phone book with Trey and it's opened my eyes to like, this is how we approach people, and this is kind of how we shouldn't approach people that we know.
Um, well, the relationship part of it is the part where the trust comes from, that will actually cause people to do the activity long enough to get the results. And sometimes we forget that. And the hardest part of this business when you build it big is maintaining the relationships you have while you're trying to go out and create new ones. Um, People are like, Trey, what do you do all day? Like, dude, I'm trying not to piss off these people I've known for 20 years. Well, I have to go make friends with people I met a month ago. And a lot of times I'm thinking about how to walk that line, and I could probably be a lot more productive. Maybe I think about it too much, but what I do know is um it's the relationship business. That's people work with people they know, like, and trust. And a big problem that prevents there's like this one glaring thing that causes a bunch of people to quit and then spit back at the company. Like, oh, FFL. Like it's usually because they got offended by somebody that was telling them the truth and they didn't like the delivery. You know, like, here's something that everybody on this call should, like, I don't say this a lot, so I don't have like a good little, like, I have all these little 60-second sound bites that I do. I haven't really used this one. But if you can convince yourself just not to get offended and be complimented by the fact that somebody cares enough to tell you the truth, you'll go a lot further than you will if you get offended. Because the opposite of love is not hate. It's not being mean. It's not being direct. The opposite of love is apathy. It's just not caring. So when somebody cares enough to be like, you know, Rami, I pick Rami because everybody knows this is a like, you never have to say it's Rami. But Rami, what are you doing? Why aren't you working? You need to get your butt on the phone. Your goals aren't gonna accomplish themselves, Like, I said, Rami's like, yeah, that's a good point. I probably, he's cool with it. Like, but sometimes people get all caught up in the delivery. Like, if you could just not do that, I've seen so many people do that with Sean. And Sean always means well. Sean is never trying to make people mad to the point where, like, they hate their life. But sometimes he's abrupt with it. I've seen him be super abrupt with it. Like, there was this story back to the old company. Like, if you didn't help 10 families a week and you came to the office, you sat at the kids' table and you didn't get to eat the food. Like, the food is for grown-ups. You helped this video. You actually went down for the week, so you sit over there. And they would still come to the meeting. Now, you think, well, God, that's mean. God, that's just so over the top. Well, think about what that creates. It creates a culture of people who aren't offended easy, who want to be at the grown-up table, and they showed up anyway. I would much rather have somebody do that than act like everything's going to be okay when I'm losing everything and my wife's getting ready to leave me. Like, that, who wouldn't rather have that? And the problem is, it's just so easy to get offended and just buy into what you have in your own head and try to rationalize the fact that you aren't where you think you should be, or where you could be, and you didn't like how somebody told you. So I don't know if that answered the question either. What was the question?
So it did. I was talking to you about recruiting and essentially it being a relationship business, and we
Yes.
kind of went down,
So you got to recruit people you have a relationship with, So they trust you enough to buy leads. And then when it's not working out, you can be real with them. Like y'all can always be real with Afro, right? Like that's and then when they're not warm market, when they come from somebody else's warm market, you build a strong enough relationship that when Heather has an issue, like you can be real with Heather. That's the foundation of it. That's the glue of it. It's not just how many bodies can I get in here to check the boxes. This is not a recruiting deal. This is not a recruiting deal. It's not. That's what makes it not MLM. There is a bunch of people that y'all should not recruit. And if you're going to offend them fast. And one of the things I used to always tell people, and I didn't do it to be a jerk, but let's say I recruit Bob, and Bob has called me 12 times asking me the same question. I help Bob get leads, and he's still not dialing them. And it's the 12th time, and I see my phone, and I go, God, I don't want to talk to Bob. For me, that's a signal to pick up the phone and go, Bob, I saw your name. I almost didn't answer it because I have a feeling you're going to ask me the same question you asked me 12 times. I'm not saying this to be mean, but if it continues this way, you really do need to find something else to do because it's not going to work. And if I keep pretending like it's going to work, then I'm doing you a disservice and that's hurting your family. You should probably go get a job with all due respect. And I love you. If you, dude, that right there will make you way more money than you trying to pull Bob, drag Bob, convince Bob that he's worth it. Bob's like, I was dropped as a child. I fell off a horse. I got kicked by a donkey. My wife left me. My second wife left me. Like, you know, what do you think my problem is? I'm not a psychiatrist, Bob, but I know if you keep dwelling on this, you're going to make me want to quit. And the best thing I could do is stay in the business. So I think you should quit. It's probably not going to work. I mean, God, I sound like a complete jerk. But honestly, that right there, when I stopped doing that, is when I pierced myself through with more agony than you could ever imagine in this business. Like the the best thing you could do is to stop caring. God, that's rough. What I'm saying there is stop caring so much about what everybody else thinks. Stop caring about hurting everybody's feelings. Stop caring about what they say about you. Stop caring about whether or not they think you're going to make it. Let go of all that and then hold on to your reason for doing it, the fact that people are looking to you for leadership. So the idea behind this business is let's go do it. I'm going to provide the, I'm going to follow, I'm going to take the machete and clear the path. And the ones that want to follow me, and the ones that don't, and both are okay. Like it doesn't make them bad if they don't want to do it. Like it doesn't, this is not for everybody. Like recruiting 101, this is not for everybody. As soon as you start, like you post you post an Instagram post and you get a call, and the call starts out like this call is being recorded from Wabash State Prison. Don't recruit that one. They got Instagram in jail too. Like when I get out in 6 years, I'm gonna work with you. No, don't. It's okay to tell people no. We don't want everybody. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And Trey, that makes a lot of sense. And just like you said, like recruiting 101, this is not for everybody. And just like Trey like said, I laugh because that goes really deep for me too, Trey. It's like there was a time where I was hiring. I would hire anybody like I'm like, you want to work here? You want to work here? Or, oh, okay, let's get you into free licensing. It's like I'm not even understanding why you want to work here. I'm not even understanding if I want to work together with you. I'm not understanding if I want to lead, guide, and direct you, if I want to take your call. And I honestly think the first time I heard somebody say it, Trey, it probably was you. Like if that person's name pops up and you have like this negative reaction, like internally, like you probably shouldn't have recruited that guy or girl because it's not somebody you can have a conversation with on a day-to-day basis, or you want to have a conversation with. And when you don't feel like, for example, like when Heather calls me, I'm like, what's up? Like, you know what I mean? Like what's the deal? How, like, what's going on? I'm excited to talk to you because I know she's productive. I know she's busy. I know she's calling with purpose. But it's like in the beginning, I was talking to anybody, Trey. I'd be like, oh, Trey, you want to work here for 1 hour a week? Okay, perfect. That's fine. No, 1 hour a week can
We'll
work.
work you into it.
Yeah, we'll get it done, Trey. Don't worry. Just let's get you licensed. It's like that's not what we're going for. So, but what I realized was once I was able to stop doing that and being able to tie, like, okay, wait, when my phone rings 50% of the time that it's an agent, I don't want to take the call. And being able to understand why, right? I think was really deep for me because not everybody wants to work with me and I don't want to work with everybody. And I think that that's the beauty of this actual business and of the industry is it's just like that. So, don't convince yourself that everybody, needs to be here. And also don't convince yourself that, and I think out of everything you said, Trey, today, there was a lot of good stuff in here, but you said, convince yourself to not be offended, be complimented by somebody caring enough about you to actually tell you what they see is going on. And I think if I'm good at one thing, like there's not a lot of things I'm good at, Trey, but if I'm good at one thing, it's that. It's like if you call me, Sean calls me, I'm going to listen to the feedback and not in a way of I think you're trying to offend me, but in a way of I know you want me to be better for me, not for you. And like, that's what I want for me too. But there's always two ways we can take that, guys. So I think just being able to talk to your own self and be like, would I want to work with this person? Do I think it's a good fit? In the moment it doesn't make sense, just flat out having that conversation, like Trey said, hey Bob, I don't think this is going to be a good fit. You're already stressing me out. You haven't even got started yet. You're not even reading the emails. Like, I love you. Talk soon. Friends, right? Like, and moving on. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, Trey,
Yeah,
I appreciate you taking the time today.
I just got one more comment because you made me think of it. So the flip side of that is be the agent that people want to work with.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing you can control right off the bat. Like when I talked about Jordan earlier, like he was being the agent that people want to work with. Jordan calls me, I'll answer it. Like Liz. I mean, Liz is the agent that people want to work with. Like be the person that shows up with a good attitude, be the person that isn't a burden on everybody else, be the person that's uplifting, be the person that you don't have to convince to get to work. Be the person that isn't looking for accolades every time they do something good, be secure, be somebody who doesn't gossip, be somebody that says good things about people behind other people's back. If you get good at all those things, it's hard not to recruit because people will be attracted to it. And you'll recruit. Birds of a feather flock together. And if you learn to play that role, you'll find people like you. You'll find people like Marisa. You find people like Rami. You find people like Christina. They're all like that. And they're the easiest ones to work with. So, I mean, if Afro had 5 Afros, that's like a game changer. If Afro had 20 Afros, now we're talking. Like that is $100,000 a month that overrides no matter what. Of course, if anybody's watching, there's risk involved. You have to buy leads. It's not easy. Most people quit. Most people don't start. So there you go. That's context. But you all see what I did there? Like that's what you want. So in order to get that, start being the agent that would be included, that shows up, that everybody wants to be around. And you can control that 100%. So that's all I got. Thank you for having me.
I love that. Thank you so much, Trey. And that wraps up the call perfectly. Be the agent that everybody wants to work with. Be the person everybody wants to be around. I can't thank you enough, Trey, for taking the time out of your busy day today. I appreciate you more than you know. And thanks for being on with us.